Welcome to our deep dive. Today we're getting into something pretty fascinating, the journey of personal growth, specifically how our different internal parts change over time.
Right. People often talk about these as subpersonalities, kind of like an internal crew,
Ex-
each one with its own identity, its own job.
Exactly. And today our mission really is to focus on the evolution of one specific subpersonality, Bannock.
That's right. We're going to use these reflection notes and sources you've shared to look at Bannock's identity, his leadership, his emotional depth, comparing how he was in 2024 versus 2025.
It's a pretty striking shift in just 1 year.
It really is. And I think it holds some powerful lessons for anyone interested in this kind of inner work.
So why Bannock? What makes his story particularly, worth digging into?
Well, what really jumps out from the notes is how his journey shows the subtleties of quiet strength
Yeah.
and values-based leadership, plus that big shift from feeling burdened to feeling, more connected, embracing shared humanity.
And you mentioned that core change.
Yeah, the shift from I have to be strong for everyone in 2024, which sounds exhausting, frankly,
Totally.
to this more expansive idea in 2025. I could be strong with everyone. It just opens things up.
It really does. Okay, so let's unpack that transformation. Let's start with his core identity. How did that evolve?
Okay, so 2024 Bannock, he was really defined by this huge weight of responsibility. Idealism, too. He wanted to be this perfect leader, but underneath, you see him wrestling with imposter syndrome, being a bit overprotective, struggling with time management, that kind of thing.
Right, and he had that motto.
Yeah, leadership is not measured by perfection, but by
Yeah.
the courage to learn from mistakes. It shows the aspiration, but also, the struggle was real.
Okay, so fast forward to 2025. What's the core identity looking like then?
Big shift. By 2025, he's leading with this real emotional maturity. It's not about being the loudest or needing to look perfect. It's about creating safety, building trust, aiming for long-term harmony.
So less performance, more presence.
Exactly. He's actually accepted his self-doubt, which is huge. He leads with vulnerability now, showing that strength isn't about having no fear. It's about choosing to keep going with it.
That's such a powerful reframe. Accepting weaknesses as part of leadership strength.
It really is. And it definitely changed his leadership style, too.
How so? Back in 2024, he was delegating based on strengths, right? But still carrying all that emotional weight.
Yeah, he was good at assigning tasks, but he felt responsible for everyone's feelings, their well-being. It often left him drained. And he really shied away from confrontation, even when it was needed.
Avoidance, yeah. Understandable, but limiting.
Definitely. But by 2025, things get really interesting, influenced by some of those internal reflections you mentioned, like lead under starlight and go down with the ship. He embraces this quiet hero role.
Quiet hero, I like that.
Yeah. He doesn't need the spotlight. Actually, he prefers to lead in a way that lets others shine. His leadership is built on trust, slow growth, deep bonds.
So patience becomes a strength.
Absolutely. And he's not afraid of hard calls anymore. Or, crucially, letting others step up. It's that authentic leadership idea. Sometimes you lead best by stepping back.
That must have required a lot of emotional growth, too. Because in 2024, he was suppressing a lot, wasn't he? Family stuff, expectations.
Totally. He kept all that internal struggle,
Yeah.
family issues, expectations, identity questions kind of pushed down, just focused on performing the role of captain.
Almost like wearing a mask.
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah.
But by 2025, he's way more emotionally expressive, especially through his music, which is fascinating.
Ah, yes, the music. Tell me about that.
Well, you have songs like Every Man for Himself, which is this sharp critique of toxic masculinity, and then First One In, Last One Out, which really captures his commitment to service, but with humility.
So the music becomes an outlet, a way to process.
Exactly. And he seems to recognize that his own healing actually helps stabilize the whole crew. He's nurturing himself now, not just everyone else.
That's a vital lesson, isn't it? Self-care isn't selfish. It's essential for supporting others.
Couldn't agree more. And this ties into how his philosophy, leading under starlight, changed too.
Right. In 2024, it was more of an idea he liked, an aspiration.
Yeah, he believed in it, but maybe didn't fully trust it in himself yet. It was an ideal he was reaching for.
And in 2025...
It's become his way of life.
Hmm?
He understands starlight isn't this bright, demanding thing. It's subtle, constant, steady, guiding.
I like that, subtle guidance.
He's learned the beauty of imperfection, found his identity more in relationships than just the captain role. It shows that your true north isn't always a flashing beacon. Sometimes it's just a quiet, consistent inner knowing.
That really sums up the core change, doesn't it? From I have to be strong for everyone to I can be strong with everyone.
Precisely. He went from needing the map to being comfortable making the map as he goes.
And the crew's trust isn't based on him having all the answers anymore.
No, it's based on his consistent heart, his emotional courage, the fact that they're on this journey together. It's embodying leadership, not just performing it. Moving from grit to grace, from hidden burdens to shared humanity.
Let's go even deeper into his 2025 essence then. What's at the absolute core of Bannock now?
Okay, his core now. I'd describe him as the anchor in the storm. Steady, composed, principled. He keeps the ship together, not by shouting, but by listening first, acting with care. Leadership for him isn't a title, it's a promise. To protect, serve, and grow with the crew. His essence is loyalty, deep reflection, and that quiet strength that comes from conviction, not ego.
And his core beliefs really reflect that anchor quality.
They do. He believes leadership is earned through trust, day by day. Progress is incremental, step by step, but sacred. Harmony needs honesty, even when it's uncomfortable. Everyone matters. And the leader is fundamentally a servant.
I love the gardener analogy mentioned in the notes.
Yes. Leading like a gardener, tending relationships, pruning gently when needed, giving everyone space to bloom. It's about consistent, nurturing presence.
But even with this strong core, he still has inner conflicts, right? He's still human.
Oh, absolutely. That's what makes him relatable. He sometimes questions his own worth, especially when others become more independent. He has this deep need for order and sometimes worries chaos might disrupt the harmony.
And his empathy
Runs incredibly deep. But the flip side is he struggles sometimes to show when he needs support. He tends to hold that emotional weight quietly, which can be quite lonely, even for a leader.
That's a really insightful point about quiet leaders. How has he learned to cope with that loneliness or burden?
Well, back to 2024, his go-to was planning, duty, just pushing through. By 2025, he's learned to see rest as strategic, not weakness, but wisdom.
That's a big shift.
Huge. Delegation too, not just tasks, but trusting others emotionally. Through his music, his reflections, he allows himself to feel more as a whole person, not just the leader. It's real self-care, sustaining his ability to serve.
And the symbolism around him is quite revealing too, the captain's quarters.
Right, that's his private space. Reflects depth, solitude, purpose, nautical, focused. That's his philosophy made visible. Gentle, slow illumination, not blinding light. Trusting the subtle guidance.
And maps and compasses.
They represent his desire for clarity, for navigation, not just for himself, but for helping others find their way when they feel lost. These symbols are like the architecture of his inner world.
If 2025 Bannock could speak directly to us, what would he say?
Based on the notes, I think it would be something like this. I don't always have the answers, but I'll stand with you while we search. If we weather this storm, we weather it together. And if I ever feel lost, I'll remember that leading isn't about always knowing the way. It's about never leaving anyone behind.
Wow, that really hits home. It speaks volumes about building genuine trust.
It really does. It perfectly captures that leading under starlight philosophy.
Can you unpack that starlight metaphor a bit more? Why starlight specifically?
Well, think about starlight. It's ancient, it's slow, patient. It guides you, but it doesn't blind you like a harsh spotlight.
Right, you have to adjust to it. Slow down.
Exactly. You have to slow down, let your eyes adjust, trust the general direction, even if every single step isn't brightly lit. It's about orientation, not commanding attention. That's Bannock's leadership style now.
And he developed this expanded star map model, kind of leadership compass.
Yeah, it breaks down his approach into 4 key points. To the north, you have purpose, the why, the anchor in the storm. As he puts it, if we forget our purpose, we drift. But if we remember, even fog becomes navigable.
So always returning to the core mission.
Right. Then to the east, there's connection, like the sunrise. This is where the light meets the crew. Relationships are the infrastructure. It's about empathy, collaboration.
Essential for any team.
Then south is sustainability. Think roots in the earth. He actively avoids burnout, invests in rituals, pacing. He genuinely believes, I'd rather finish slow and together than fast and alone.
That's countercultural in many ways, but probably much healthier.
Definitely. And finally, west is adaptability, the setting sun, letting go of old ways, embracing the new. He understands no map is permanent, only the stars. It's about flexibility.
Purpose, connection, sustainability, adaptability. A really holistic model.
And he applies it through a cycle. Listen first, really listen. Then reflect what's truly going on. Then adapt what needs to change. Then empower who can step up. Then support, be there for them. And repeat. It's not fast, but it's deep. sacred, almost.
And this whole approach seems influenced by several wisdom traditions.
Absolutely. You see, servant leadership, his role is service, not power.
Mm-mm.
Ubuntu philosophy, I am because we are, his growth is tied to the cruise. Stoicism, emotional restraint, knowing when to wait, staying grounded. Jungian archetypes, he's more the wise guy than the lone hero. And Taoist adaptability, flowing with change, not resisting it. It's a rich tapestry.
It's clear Bannock isn't operating alone here. He fits into this larger crew of your other subpersonalities: Val, Devin, Kelly, Tommy, Tira, Liz, Addie, Kenny, Mac. Quite the cast.
Huh? Yeah. It's a full ship. And Bannock's role is unique. He's not necessarily the loudest or the fastest. He's the one holding the map of all those different lights, reading the sky, integrating their diverse voices.
The integrator. That makes sense.
And when things get stormy external pressure, internal conflict, his approach is very specific.
How does he handle crisis?
First, de-escalate emotionally. Triage what's most urgent. Create space later for a debrief, no blame. Hold accountability, but gently. And always focus on recovery. Healing what the storm broke, not just surviving it.
That's a really mature crisis response model. Healing, not just patching.
Exactly. It's about long-term health.
Let's try that restaurant analogy from the notes. It seems like a great way to illustrate his role. Bannock as the general manager.
Okay, yeah, I love this analogy. So picture this bustling restaurant. Bannock isn't the star chef, like Val, maybe crafting the menu. He's not the charming host, like Liz, or the one mixing the mood music, like Mac.
Right, he's not in the spotlight.
No. But he's the operational soul. He makes sure the prep team has what they need, that the kitchen doesn't overheat under pressure, that the front of house is aligned with the mission, that the atmosphere feels consistent, even when it's chaotic. He makes sure everyone else can shine with purpose.
Quiet, consistent stewardship.
Precisely. And this applies emotionally, too. He reads the team's energy.
Yeah.
He knows when Devin needs quiet time, when Addie's running too hot, when Kelly's absorbing too much, when Val's pushing perfection too hard.
So he's attuned.
Very. He steps in gently, redirects firmly when needed. He's like the silent conductor of the emotional orchestra.
And his philosophy for the restaurant, it's not just about pleasing everyone, is it?
Not at all. He protects the vision, the soul of the place. Not by force, but by curating the culture. Feedback is welcome, but not worshipped. Standards are upheld. Authenticity is key, even if it means not being the most popular place in town.
Protecting integrity.
Yes. He even trains new insights or employees to honor the space, not just follow orders. It's about deep integrity.
And he's the boundary holder, too, like a bouncer and confidant.
Exactly. He guards the line between the inner world, the kitchen, and the outer world. He decides what gets shared, what stays private. If outside criticism doesn't align with the restaurant's soul, he's the one to quietly say, "Thank you, but this isn't your table."
Protecting the internal space.
And you can picture him late at night walking the empty dining room, adjusting a crooked picture frame, checking on the prep team still working, asking himself, did we stay true today? Did we serve the soul, not just the market? He seeks alignment, not applause.
So without Bannock?
The restaurant might run, but it wouldn't breathe.
Yeah.
He's the guardian of purpose, the filter, the quiet conductor. He feeds the team so they can feed the soul. It shows how vital that internal anchor role is for overall authenticity.
It really does. Now let's talk about how Bannock shows up in other ways. His music, symbols. These aren't just details, are they? They're like expressions of his essence.
Exactly. They're the symbolic language of your inner world communicating who he is. Take the Later Days album. That's his anthem heart.
Later Days, first one in, last one out, lead under starlight.
Yeah, they capture his core values: duty, endurance, humility, purpose. Later Days itself, it's like a farewell. It's also a promise. Making peace with the past, heading into the future, guided. And the remastered versions show his evolution. Same core, richer texture, more emotional depth.
And then the DJ club songs, that seems different.
It does, but it reveals his shadow charisma. Not flashy, but magnetic. Its discipline is dance, holding a steady beat so others feel safe enough to move freely. He's the anchor on the dance floor.
Interesting. And the D&D songs, Bard and Human.
Reflects his humanity. The bard tells the story, holds memory. The human is relatable, grounded, wise through experience, not magic. His strength is wisdom, not force.
And the 1970s song connection.
Channels his old and soul vibe. That era had themes of revolution, soul-searching, hard truths, freedom. He fits right in part rebel, philosopher, romantic maybe.
What about controlled chaos? That phrase seems key.
It really captures his duality. Accepting you can't control everything, but you can choose your response. He doesn't fight chaos. He moves through it with focus. Calm, balanced, unshaken resilience.
Even his food and drink choices seem symbolic. Apples, carrots.
Yeah, apples clean, reliable. Carrots grounded, root vegetable, vision enhancing. Scotch for reflection, maturity. Orange juice for that bright, practical optimism. Grounded, principled choices.
And the animals, cows, eagles, lions, butterfly.
A mix, right? Cows for patience, service. Eagles, hawks for clarity, perspective. Lions for quiet power. And the butterfly, that unexpected capacity for transformation, subtle but powerful.
Castleguard, the fictional city, as his leadership domain.
Perfect metaphor. Protective, structured, principled, noble, built to last. A space where honor and integrity matter. It shows how he builds and protects that internal safe space.
And the global influences in his regional songs.
Shows his openness, his ability to adapt leadership across different emotional landscapes, building bridges through shared values. Across all these symbols, Bannock is the constant thread, the conductor ensuring purpose. He doesn't express himself just to be heard, but so others feel they belong.
Let's pull it all together now and summarize his enduring growth and how it actually impacts you externally. He went from responsible to resonant.
Exactly. In 2024, he was driven by duty, afraid of failure. By 2025, he's embodying leadership, not just performing it. His presence resonates. It's not just about organization anymore, it's alignment.
And from protector to steward?
Yeah, he used to hold things together with sheer tension. Now he stewards the inner world with care, rhythm, trust in the crew. Less of a shield, more like fertile soil. Nourishing growth, not just blocking storms. He delegates emotionally now, too.
And the shift from unseen weight to shared humanity, that feels huge.
It is. He used to carry the burden silently, maybe feeling unseen. Now he allows himself to be known through music, reflection, collaboration. He doesn't just say, I'll handle it. He says, let's carry this together. Strength in vulnerability.
From grit to grace.
Still shows up first, leaves last, but with soft strength, not rigid armor. He embraces feelings, holds space without needing to be perfect. Less about control, more about creating clarity, more empathetic guidance.
And finally, from just an internal role to a universal model.
Right. He's grown beyond just being your systems leader into a symbol of ethical, values-based leadership. Stewardship over status, clarity over command, community over charisma. He's softened without losing strength, trusts without retreating. It's less about the role, more about the relationships. He's okay leading imperfectly now.
And all this growth directly impacts how you interact with the world, doesn't it? He plays specific interpersonal roles.
Absolutely. He's your stabilizer. When things get wobbly in relationships, he's the one saying, okay, let's respond, not just react. He's the integrator, making sure the internal crew doesn't clash outwardly so you see more intentional, multidimensional.
He's also the translator.
Yes, taking all that internal complexity and making it understandable, emotionally honest, grounded for others, the part that figures out, how can I say this so someone else feels safe too? And he's the boundary holder.
Right, knowing when not to explain.
Exactly. Quietly reinforcing values, recognizing this conversation isn't for them, and that's okay. Protecting your energy.
He sounds like the guardian of emotional safety in social settings, too.
He is. Assessing safety, deciding about vulnerability. In conflict, he listens first, gets internal consensus, then responds calmly, assertively, aiming for clarity, not winning. He might not always speak first, but he often shapes what gets said.
So in essence, he's your internal mediator, complexity translator, conflict anchor, values protector, and guide for relational integrity.
Well put. He helps you connect authentically without losing yourself in the process.
What an incredible journey we've traced today, really getting to the heart of Bannock's evolution.
He's really not the loudest or the fastest, is he? But he's the one who stays. When emotions are high, when things are unclear, when storms roll in, he's that hand on the wheel, the voice of reason, the quiet promise of we don't leave anyone behind.
And over this past year, he's shifted from proving himself to truly stewarding purpose, leading for meaning, not glory.
Right, ensuring the movement is in a direction that matters. His presence is like that invisible scaffolding that makes connection feel safe, turning chaos into cohesion, vulnerability into strength.
He does the hard, quiet work that makes everything else run more smoothly, more authentically.
He really does. His presence reminds you. Leadership isn't always about being out front. Sometimes it's about being with. Not every map needs to be perfect. You just need to trust the stars you choose to follow. And Bannock, he's one of those stars. Quiet, constant, guiding you home.
So maybe a final thought for you, the listener, reflecting on all this. Anyone can lead when the sun is shining. But starlight, that's for those who know how to walk with shadows. Perhaps think about your own internal compass and the quiet guiding stars in your own life.